What's up, DGens? This is Locked In. As per usual, I'm your host, Mason Cameron, at PFF_Mace on Twitter. And with me, business as usual, my partner in crime, Vishaal Gupta, at Vishaal_Gupta95 on Twitter. Go hit us up on there, yell at us there, or, show us all your winning tickets because we've been doing it big this season. V, you ready to make some money?
Oh, let's try. This is going to be a little bit of a tougher week, I think. I mean, the injury reports have just been insane the last 24 hours. So it's going to be a little difficult, but I'm super excited to get into it today and hopefully make some money.
Yeah, the injury report's been kind of crazy, but hopefully that can even out some of these lines. You might find some hidden value in there. We might have that for you tonight. So it's going to be a good one. And then also with us today, we have the brilliant Ben Hunt. Ben writes the most high leverage piece on the entire site, the NFL Exotics piece. Go check it out if you haven't. His work is top notch. You'll love it. Ben, how goes it? You ready to make some money tonight?
It's good. Yeah, let's do it. I'm happy to be here. Happy to see you guys. I'm definitely trying to make some money this week. And I think it's actually more wide open for me than it has been in prior weeks. But I think that's just because I relied too much on film study.
So now you're right. So now we have a bigger sample size. We get to see more of, we can confirm our biases and our beliefs to what we see on tape. And hopefully that can help us even some things out. So we're into week 3. We did over underdogs last night with our special guest, Mike Manning. Go check that out if you missed it. You can see that on our YouTube and our Twitter pages. But like I said, tonight we're doing the big show. We're doing the main show. And to start us off, we have a little bit of housekeeping because we got to go over the records between me and V's newest piece, the NFL Versus. It's the only place you can find it is over on the website at importantnonsense.com. It pits me and V together against each other in a battle of wits. We're trying to get an edge. I'm not going to lie. Last week, I thought I was going down 0-2. I thought V was going to take a commanding lead. But then some things happened and I pulled one out. I even in our Discord chat, I even had admitted defeat to V. And then within the last quarter, that went out the window and I got a backdoor cover. So you love a nice little backdoor cover, even when we don't deserve it. But to go back over those, we are 50-50 on the year, completely even. We are close and we'll see, who makes it and who takes out an advantage coming forward.
Yeah, these double-digit comebacks, to watch. So brutal.
For starters,
first 2 weeks.
Double digit. It was 3 touchdowns at one point. So what we're talking about is the pick that I pulled out of my ass last week was Miami +3. V was on the Baltimore side, and it was looking so pretty for the first 3 quarters. V, what do you make of that? Drop back, come back, backdoor cover.
Yeah, super annoying. I mean, the Eagles blew it in week 1. They had a 17-point lead twice in that game, and they couldn't cover. The Ravens had a 21-point lead. Last week, they couldn't cover. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I understand they were up in the Baltimore secondary, but how do you leave Tyreek Hill open that many times in the fourth quarter? Play some defense. Let's go.
He had 1,000,000 yards by the end of this thing, a gajillion yards. So thank you to that. And then you took home the one that I actually admitted defeat on early in the week because the injury report turned very, very sour. But that was the Colts-Jags game under 47.5, and you took that by a wide margin. So
yeah, that was a good one. That was a nice and easy one. Didn't have to sweat that one late.
Yeah, not too bad. But like I said, that one moved a whole lot of points by the time kickoff even started. So that one was dead on arrival.
Yeah.
And lastly, so for this week, we are looking at the Lions taking on the Vikings. The Vikings are -6. I'm on the side of the Vikings, and you're on the side of the Lions. What do you see when you see this game, B?
I'm primarily taking this one because of Detroit's offensive line play. They've just been so good in the run game and the passing game. They've created holes that are just completely wide open for DeAndre Swift. I think a lot of us have seen the stats this week where the Lions have the most yards before contact in the league, and their yards before contact are more than some teams have just yards per carry in general. That's how good their line has been in the run game. And then in the passing game, Goff has been relatively clean. He hasn't gotten too much pressure on him. So if Minnesota's not getting pressure on him, they don't have the horses in the secondary to stop the passing attack, especially with Harrison Smith being ruled out earlier today. I think Goff should have a nice day in the passing game as well. So if I'm getting almost a full touchdown, I really like that one, even if Minnesota might edge out a small victory.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I might be having a little bit of a connection issue here. So if I drop out, my man V's just going to wing it from here, and I'll have to finagle something together. But so we keep going.
Okay.
What I was seeing is, the Lions have definitely been way improved, but they are on the road this week. It's going to be a tough look, and we'll see if they can still, produce that offensive magic that we've come to know for the first 2 weeks, but we'll see if that can really stick through this week. I think that they're a different team at home than they are on the road, just like the Vikings, and luckily the Vikings are at home this week. So I'm leaning that way. The extra 6 and not the full 7 is nice that I'm not super worried about the touchdown. I have a little bit of room to breathe. So that's where I sit on that one. We'll see how that one comes out. For the second game, we have the Rams at the Cardinals. The total is 49.5. And V is on the side of the under. I'm on the side of the over. What are you seeing when you see this one, V?
Yeah, this one might be a little bit more concerning because I think earlier today we had some injury news for the Rams. I think everybody behind Jalen Ramsey for the Rams cornerbacks are banged up, so they could be very thin at the secondary in this one, which could cause issues for this over-under. But the reason I took the under in the first place is mainly because I just don't trust the Arizona offense at all. I wrote about it earlier in the week. They have 4 quarters with 0 points this year, and they have 2 quarters that have ended with 7 points for them. So they've been very inept on offense, just not getting anything going. They had the miracle comeback last week. They had some garbage time points in week 1, but besides that, they just are not doing anything, and now they're going up against Aaron Donald. He's just going to eat them alive again like he did last year in the playoffs. I'm just struggling to see how Arizona is going to move the ball all that efficiently. And the Rams have been okay on offense last week, but Stafford leads the league in interception, so there's concerns that he's just not being as efficient as he needs to be for this offense. So it's going to be hard for them to score enough points, I think, to hit the over. That's where I'm looking at the under on this one.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see it. I think that to me, normally, we hit this last week in this show where I skewered the Cardinals because I didn't believe in them offensively. I still don't really, but I think they have this random talent gap that they can throw up a bunch of points. If they can put 16 points in one quarter, I have a hard time like phasing them out now because I feel like even when they have to have it, they can. And frankly, to me, I think this Rams defense just isn't quite as good as we would come to hope. They have a lot to do. They haven't looked terribly great the first 2 weeks, so we'll see really how it works out. But I think that this is going to end up being a really good one. I think it might end up being a shootout, but we'll see. So it's going to be another one. Hopefully these are going to come out closer than the last ones. So
I hope so.
And then, so we'll move on right into the games. We're going to go straight into the games. The first game we have on the list is Houston at Chicago. V likes Chicago -2.5.
Yeah, I'm only taking this one because it's under a field goal, making essentially a pick 'em like we talked about multiple times before. Chicago will pick 'em at home against the Houston team that's been frisky, but is still not very good. I think that's just a one I can't pass up. Chicago's obviously had its struggles offensively. They just don't throw the ball at all. Very few pass attempts, but their running game has been very good, especially last week against a pretty good Green Bay defense. Montgomery just ran all over them whenever he got the ball, and Houston has been torched on the ground as well this year. So I think Montgomery can have a big game, and I think there'll be enough room for Fields to have some explosive plays in this one. I just think getting under a field goal at home is too good to pass up for Chicago.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. We were talking before we came in, and we were in the spot watching bad football with Pittsburgh and who was it last week? New England. So I wouldn't want to bet on this and put myself in a situation where I felt like I had to watch this game.
No, that's totally fair.
Right. And I'm going to say something blasphemous right now with the Packers thing to my left here, but I haven't, one of the few games I haven't watched is the Chicago Green Bay one. I'm going to get to it, but I just haven't got to it yet. But I have watched Davis Mills play, and I'd say Justin Fields probably has the edge on him and at home. And like you said, under a full score, definitely.
Yep. Speaking of bad games, there's another bad game that you picked coming up in this next one. You have the Saints minus 2.5 at the Carolina Panthers. Why are you taking the Saints in this one?
Well, quite simply, they're the better team. I had this put into the opening line values. I thought it might move in the direction of the Saints, but it's gone the other way. But I'm happy to have under a field goal for all the reasons you guys have referenced. I saw some stats on how Baker has played and like trying to make prop Baker up and maybe like tamping down what the Saints have been doing on defense. But when you look at the teams that they've each played, I think those stats are going to kind of come back together. I mean, the Saints look decent on offense, better than I thought they would. Even with Jameis looking pretty bad last week, they probably should have won that game. It felt like they were in control for at least 3 quarters. I like them under a field goal. It's great. Better defense, even though Panthers defense is fine, but I like the Saints defense. I'll run with that.
Yeah, I never looked at this one for a while, and it just came back to Winston and his back injury. It seems like it's not helping him out right now, and it feels like it's hard to bet on Winston when he's fully healthy. Now that he's got this injury, it makes it kind of even harder to trust him. But yeah, once it drops under 3, you can't really do anything else but take the Saints. You're not going to bet the Panthers at 2.5. At 3, you could bet the Panthers getting the field goal just because we have that safety. But once it drops under the field goal, that pick makes a lot of sense.
Right, and their offense really didn't move very well last week without Kamara. They still made do, but I mean, if you remember, that big fumble was on Ingram. I mean, Kamara means a lot to the offense, especially in terms of scoring and chunk plays. So, and he's practiced. So if he plays, I think that really pushes this one over the top as well.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, next up we have Buffalo at Miami. This should be one of the better games in the early window. We all have a piece on this one. Mason likes Buffalo minus 5.5. We'll have him talk about that when he gets back on. But me and you, we both like over 53. What's your take on the over-under on this one?
I'm not the biggest on over-unders, but both of these offenses look potent. And when you factor in the injury report for Buffalo, it's looking bad. With Micah Hyde already out, there's a chance Poyer doesn't play. So both safeties
right now.
And the communication on that defense is so important with them playing as much quarters as they do and them squeezing everything down. So to not have arguably their 2 most important players, I know Von Miller is very important and he kind of puts the defense over the top, but missing both safeties is going to mean a lot on the back end. And they can't, I don't think Miami can really stop Buffalo. I don't think anyone can stop Buffalo. So, yeah, I mean, this is kind of a cinchy over, it would seem. But we've all seen it go either way in these spots. So I'm not exactly passionate about it, but it seems pretty easy at first glance.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes a ton of sense too. Sorry, I'm having a Wi-Fi issue here, but that's okay. We're back up. We're still running. And I agree, Ben, that when you look at this, 53 is such a high number, but when both of these safeties are out, it's a little bit tough to think that, the Buffalo defense is going to be just as strong as they were previously, because that is their heart and soul. Like as important as Von Miller is, he's a single pass rusher. Their secondary is their calling card, and their 2 safeties have definitely killed it. And then another reason why I think where I lean on this game is the minus 5.5. And a lot of that comes down to kind of what you just said, where nobody can stop this Buffalo offense. It's as strong as it can be. They're also the strongest team on defense when they have both safeties. So I still think even without the safeties, they're going to give Miami a little bit of trouble. I think Tua ends up coughing one up. And I think that even though they're on the road, 5.5 is just not high enough. We've been talking about this with road favorites so far this season. But when you compare some of these other lines we've gotten previously, I know that Miami's a better team. I took them last week. But if you're going to tell me that Buffalo isn't a full touchdown favorite on the road against Miami, like I get that it's a divisional game, I'm not buying it. Buffalo is by far the best team in the league. They're the favorite to win the Super Bowl. They're going to roll over everybody until we get there, probably. So, like you said last week, V, I'm going to bet the Bills until they tell me I can't anymore, frankly.
I mean, honestly, if they cover in this one with both their safeties out, these Oddsmakers are not going to be able to make a line big enough for Buffalo going the rest of the way for us not to take it. I mean, it's just going to be crazy at this point. So this one, if they hit this one, it's just a wrap for the rest of the season. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
This could also bolster the over as well, but I think I mean, if you put a gun to my head and made me bet one side of this, I would actually take Miami, not only because of the safeties, but Ed Oliver out, Jordan Phillips out, Mitch Morris is questionable. I mean, it's a lot, and they're on the road. Communication, I just and Florida's a different monster in this time of year, so they say. I don't have very much firsthand experience.
Florida Heat,
yeah, right. And I think the Bills are in shape physically. I think they can handle it, but yeah, it's just going to be a lot. This is going to be a great early season test. Great game. This is just like Miami-Baltimore last week, it feels like.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it doesn't end the way that Miami-Baltimore did.
No backdoor covers.
Little backdoor cover. So I get it. I like that, though. And then we move on to the next game. Actually, I have some graphics here now that the internet's kind of figured itself out, and we can throw some picks up here. Which game are we on here? We have Cincinnati, New York Jets. Let's pull this one up here.
Oh, this one hurt me last year, real bad.
Yeah, it probably hurt me too. I don't remember specifically, but yeah, I'm sure this one hurt me last year too.
This was probably my biggest loss of the season last year when Mike White came in and just destroyed. And I had it in teasers, so I don't remember the spread, but I had it in teasers and it crushed me.
I'm trying to think if this was the one that knocked me out of my survivor pool last year. I'm pretty sure it did, and about like 98% of the public too. But that just only makes sense. So when we look at Cincinnati at NYJ, V likes over 45. What do you see when you see this game, V?
I'm seeing a Jets defense that's not going to be able to pressure Joe Burrow like he has been in the first 2 weeks. They don't really have that star player who's going to give him the kind of fits that we saw TJ Watt do in week 1 and Mike Parsons do last week. So if he's not getting pressured, he's just going to have plenty of time to sit there and carve up this Jets defense that's given up quite a few points this year, 30 last week to Cleveland Browns team that's probably not as good offensively as this Bengals team can be when they're firing on all cylinders and aren't getting pressured so often. So I think since he's not going to have too much trouble putting up points, and then for the Jets, I mean, I think it might somewhat surprisingly, Flacco leads the league in pass attempts. They're just letting this dude rip it whenever he wants all game, just nonstop. It's pretty crazy. So if he's getting that many pass attempts, they can put up 20 points, 24 points, whatever it is. So I definitely like the over in this one.
You know, Flacco doesn't know how long he's got in the league, so he's making the most of his time left. He's throwing it as much as he can. He's checking out of everything. So it makes sense. And, hey, I could see it, especially with what we know about this Cincinnati team. They're supposed to be good on offense. They haven't quite shown up these first couple weeks. We're going to hopefully get another, look at them this week and really see. This is a big test for them. I actually said last night on the Roster the People show with Neil and Jason that this team, this is a huge test, and Oddmakers still believe in this team because of this line. When you see that Cincinnati is -6 on the road when the Jets did what they did last week, still, I mean, it shows that Oddmakers believe in this team and see what they see on paper and think something's got to give at some point. And if it's not this week, then it ain't happening. They might be pretenders.
It's over if you can't pull this one out. You got to win this one, and you got to win convincingly. Otherwise, they're moving out to 2023, if we're being honest.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it's all communication along the offensive line, and like you guys have said, if the pass rush isn't good enough to get there, then they should be able to be fine. I think Burrow's done very well handling everything, all things considered. I mean, it's been kind of a shit show. Pardon my French, but it's been really bad. Extremely
tied up these games the first 2 weeks, despite the pressure, has been beyond impressive. I'm not taking anything away from Burrow. He's still a fantastic quarterback. He's one of the best in the game, despite the team's struggles so far.
Yeah. I actually don't know how much better it might get. I think it's them being on the road is going to hurt them a little bit, I think too. But I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets cover, but I'm laying off for sure on the 6. The 6, yeah, they're definitely respecting him in Vegas, like you said.
Right, yeah. It's a scary number. Like at one glance you'd be like, "Oh, well at least it's not 7," but it's like, yeah, but it's still 6 on the road for a team that, are they 0-2 ATS right now? I'm pretty sure they are. So, it's a tough buy. I wouldn't necessarily put my money on it, but I definitely see the over potential there for sure. And then into our next matchup here, we have who did we have? We have Philly at Washington. Ben likes over 47 on this game. Ben, tell us a little bit about what you're identifying in this one. What are your key factors in hitting this over here?
Well, I'm an Eagles man and I'm a Jags man. So I'm always any opportunity to take the Eagles, I'm going to take them. And this number seems kind of low. I will fully admit I need to do my work on each team's pace of play, which I'm sure they're probably not towards the top, but pace of play is probably going to affect this one. But I love what Philly's doing on offense, and Washington's kind of surprised me on offense. And I also think a little bit of what Philly does is helped out by them being at home. Their defense is a different monster at home, and we saw that on Monday night. And I think this one could easily zoom over. For all things said, though, I actually like not messing with the spread and teasing Philly down in a 6-point teaser, along with another team we'll probably get to eventually, or maybe some various teams. But yeah, getting rid of the 6.5 spread, I like that a little bit more than the over, but the over is definitely viable as well.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Who else are you liking? Just to spoil a little bit, who else are you liking to add to your teaser here to help get that number down?
I've already got all my bets in just for fear of the lines moving, but some of them have, some of them haven't. But I've put it I'm very heavy on the Niners this week, which we'll get to, and my article has a lot of Niners information on it. So my condolences to
Ben. We have one rule
Broncos.
here. Ben, we have one rule here. You don't talk about my Broncos, or you don't come back on my show.
The kids are just not getting it, Mason. First it was Vaughn, now it's Ben. They're just not getting it.
I have one rule, V. I have one rule, and they break it every time. It just makes no sense.
Crazy.
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Ben.
Meant to be broken, rules are, as Yoda once said.
So you like Sam Tran with it, though?
And I like teasing Kansas City down, as we'll get to next. And there's not as much, but I also kind of like the Raiders, but just because you can get over 4.5 there, and I think that's kind of decent.
That's a great number. Yeah, that's a great number there. And so you just highlighted it, and we're going to move on to the game. The next one that we have on the books is Kansas City at Indianapolis, and this one is going to be a good one. Myself and V, we like KC -5.5. What I see when I see this game is unfortunately not so much great news for my Broncos. The Chiefs still look good. They still look really good. They still have a pretty high-powered offense, and they're not like horrible on defense. They're not. That's not going to be their calling card all year, but they're still going to be able to produce on offense. They've done it all season, and frankly, the Colts have just looked awful. They have just looked terrible, and I'm not sure what to make of this team because they look good in certain spots, but in other spots they look atrocious. One of them being offensively, that could definitely be coming down to communication. But geez, even with Wentz last year, I feel like this team didn't look this bad. What do you guys see when you see this team, B?
Yeah, I'm seeing an interesting one in the fact that this line is not higher. It's just a little interesting. It seems like there's some sharp money coming in on Indy this week. But in terms of the actual game, surprisingly, I think Mahomes has been one of the highest pressured quarterbacks in the league over the first 2 weeks. But you wouldn't know it based on how well he's played. He is the highest passing EPA in the league despite getting so much pressure. And now he's going up against a Colts defense that has not gotten pressure against opposing quarterbacks through 2 weeks. So if we're talking about Mahomes in a clean pocket with just all the time in the world to operate, I don't see how he doesn't pick apart this defense. And then on the other side of the ball, Kansas City's defense has one of the highest pressure rates in the league. Matt Ryan is just not going to do well against pressure. He has no mobility whatsoever. So until Indy proves that they have a functional offense and they can actually, put up points and not put up 0 against the Jaguars and put up 3 in the first 3 quarters against Houston, how are they going to keep up with the Kansas City team? I mean, I have to see it to believe it. Until then, I'm just going to take the Chiefs -5.5.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Go ahead, Ben. Take your victory lap. Your Jaguars are doing it, buddy. You told everybody on this show first to get in your Jaguars futures, and look at where they're sitting. They'd be sitting pretty 2 weeks in. So
Yes, they are, and I'm an idiot. I just got blinded by the je ne sais quoi of Burrow and Chase. I should have wrote up by the dip on the Jaguars last week because they should have beat. They left a lot of plays on the field, but they still should have beaten Washington. And then they figured a lot out in between games this week. They look good. I mean, I actually think they look a little bit better than they probably are just because the Colts look so bad. And oh my gosh, what is wrong with the Colts protection? It's scary because that used to be the strength of the team. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Shaquille Leonard has been practicing fully, but he's already out this week.
Yeah.
And Ngakoue might not play. I mean, he's limited there. I mean, it's the line's up to 6.5 now, which is why I want to tease it, because over that 6 makes it a little dicey. And I'm usually about booking wins in those sorts of bets, but it could get very ugly. And I feel like they're going to see a lot of 5-man pressures, and they're going to be in some passing situations, and that's kind of been their downfall all season so far.
Yeah, and this Colts team wants to get you into running situations, and this is just a matchup nightmare for them because KC will do everything they can to stay out of those situations. And I actually wrote it up on our piece, or actually I had it on our show last night when I took Clyde Edwards-Helaire under 40-something.5 rushing yards, and that's because this Colts team is actually really good at stopping the run. They're one of only 2 teams in the entire NFL that have under 3 yards per carry allowed, but they're the only team to do that on more than 60 carries. They are tied for 5th most carries in the league right now. And so that says that it's not just some fluke that teams don't want to run the ball, or that, teams are throwing it against them more than they're running it. They're getting teams that are running the ball against them. They're stopping it. It's just not going to happen this week. And it's obviously not been conducive to them winning or even being successful on the field. So something's got to give there. They're going to have to figure something out before I feel anywhere near comfortable not just absolutely fading them at every turn from here on out, frankly. So it's going to be an interesting watch, and I don't know. It might be a tough go for the Colts this year. So we'll see how that one shakes out.
Yep.
On to our next game.
Get those Jags futures in.
Get those Jags
futures in. It's still viable.
Yeah,
they still haven't gone down that much.
0-3 this week. that Jags number is going way up.
They're alone in first place.
Exactly.
And they're third in odds still.
It only makes so much sense, right?
It's all starting to crystallize.
Exactly. So our next game, we have the Detroit Lions at the Minnesota Vikings. Ben likes over 52.5 here. Ben, what do you see when you see this Lightning Lions team that won as a home favorite? What are we seeing? What are you thinking?
I think I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Both offenses are humming. I'm kind of surprised a little bit by Detroit. Both more so on how teams are defending them. It's kind of shocking to me that they just let them eat how they want to eat, and teams aren't challenging them on defense a little bit more. I don't even think Minnesota's going to do it though. So I kind of could see this going over. I think Minnesota will get right against Detroit's D. This is an easy get right spot. It almost always is against Detroit's D. Detroit should be able to move the ball a decent amount. It'll be an interesting test on the road, as one of you guys alluded to earlier. But I'm not going to bet it, but it's definitely a viable bet, this going over.
Right. And, and V says this all the time. It's a great piece of advice that year-to-year analysis in betting in general is only so valuable. It's really not, it doesn't have a ton of value to it. So this analysis doesn't really carry a ton of weight, but it is similar because it's only 1 year back. But this Lions team has really only shown up at home offensively. And now, granted, they blew expectations out of the water the first 2 weeks. Granted, shout out to Jack Kavanaugh. If you guys don't already watch it, Jack runs the best Lions podcast in the damn internet. Go check it out. Believe Lions. I told you we're going to plug him every day until he comes on the show. So, but anyway, I think that it looks like the Lions, they look great, but that is also at home where everything's going right. I want to see what it looks like when they have a little bit of pressure. And right now I know that Minnesota is a team that also is just lights out at home. They're amazing at home. And given how a key matchup of Justin Jefferson versus whoever the hell the Lions want to throw out there to try to follow him around is going to be a bad match because he's just going to beat them like a drum. So we'll see how it comes out. I think that an over is actually a really good play here. And we'll see how the line comes out because that's what me and V have our NFL versus on. So we got a little extra skin on this one. It's gonna be a good pick.
One thing I want to say is I'm just shocked that teams aren't respecting Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, the guy's a good, if not great player, but they're covering him as if he's no one. Like I don't understand how they're putting their third worst defensive player on him every time and not bracketing him. Like, let's see somebody do this. Let's see what the lines look if you play cover one and you bracket him in some capacity. Like, double him and let's see if anybody else can beat you. I'm shocked they're letting him eat like that. It's crazy.
He's so talented. So talented.
He's not going to beat double teams all day long. I don't think he's that talented.
Oh, no, I agree. I agree.
So
it's a
challenge Jared Goff. I'm just shocked no one's doing it. I think Washington's just way too vanilla on defense. So it was kind of like a perfect storm to begin the season for them.
Yeah, they don't have the highest IQ over there on the defensive side of the ball in Washington, and I won't get much deeper into that. Anyway, but on to our next matchup here. We have Las Vegas at Tennessee. Let me pull this one up. I know V's going to have something to say about this one. I love listening to V absolutely eviscerate this Titans team because I'm here for it. I'm here for every word of it. Ben also likes Las Vegas -2. Ben, what do you see when you see this game? Why are you drawn towards the line? I know we talked a little bit about teasing it potentially, but what else are you seeing?
It's just a short porch type of bet. -2 is pretty good. I mean, I think we may be overreacting to last week's performance of Tennessee. I mean, things oftentimes in the NFL are never as bad or as good as they seem week to week. And I think it's going to be a dogfight because Tennessee doesn't. I mean, they're going to throw the kitchen sink at them. They're going to not want to lose this game. But I'm kind of surprised. I'm not surprised because Josh McDaniels is really good and their personnel is really good. But they should be able to handle Tennessee. I mean, part of the reason I'm so in on the Jags is it's Trevor Lawrence, but it's also the division. The division is not very good, and that's indicative of how Tennessee has looked so far. It's going to be interesting. That's why I like teasing it. I like to not mess around, but I also like some exotics in this game too. Check out the article coming out tomorrow. Maybe a little Mac Hollins love for you guys.
We love to see it. Yeah, we love to see it. So go ahead, V. I know you have more. We have another chapter in the absolutely eviscerate Tennessee saga. What did you see from them last week?
I saw what I told you guys what was going to happen. I mean, this is just not a team that can compete with high-powered offenses. Ryan Tannehill, he can only do so much. Like, I'm not going to put a ton of blame on him. He just has limited talent around him. I mean, what are you going to do when you have Robert Woods, Traylon Burks, and Kyle Phillips as your top options? I mean, he can only do so much. I'm not going to put the blame on him. He's a fine quarterback, but if you were truly thinking about competing this year, you can't make the moves they made in the offseason, trading A.J. Brown. I'm just not going to ever stop hammering that point in there. But for this week, I have been very strongly considering also taking the Raiders. I might still add them onto my list before the game on Sunday. I mean, Titans are also dealing with injuries. Taylor Lewan is going to be out, but Dupree is going to be out. Their secondary did not look good last week, and now they're going to have to try to stop Devontae Adams. The only reason I'm a little hesitant right now is because Derek Carr has surprisingly just not played well so far the first 2 weeks. I mean, they should have easily won last week, but I think they left some plays on the field, and then he also should have been better in week 1 against the Chargers. He had too many turnovers. So I'm just a little concerned about Derek Carr right now, and this is a game where maybe Derrick Henry can finally get loose and just have a couple big runs, and that can kind of keep this game closer than I would like. So I'm still looking into this one, but I definitely do lean towards the Raiders for all the Titans that I've given in the last few weeks.
I mean, I would too, and I hate betting on teams that are also in my division that look really good, but yeah. I mean, the Raiders are probably the best 0-2 team of the bunch, in my opinion. They looked decent in showings.
Them or the Bengals?
Yeah, they have they're right there. So they can put it together. Now, I'm definitely not pro Josh McDaniels. So if they don't, hey, I don't really care either way. But it
I
makes a
think
lot of
it
sense.
That's a
was.
personal take, Ben. Don't worry.
That's a
Wait,
personal
what?
take. No, so we do have
His
a
take for
question here,
Josh
though.
McDaniels is personal.
Yeah, no, I think actually Josh McDaniels was a little bit to blame for their loss on Sunday. They were manhandling Arizona, and I just didn't necessarily love his play calling down the stretch.
Yeah, it makes sense. And we probably aren't going to have a great answer here, but Soaring Eagle has got offered in a 20-man league Dylan for Aaron Jones and Robert Woods. My guys, Soaring Eagle might have an answer for you, but you could get an even better answer over in our Discord from all the guys that do all the fantasy football stuff. They eat, sleep, live, breathe it. We're more of lines-based guys. We pick the props and such, but definitely go check out our Discord and you can see all that there. Or you can even shout out our guy, Jason Draven. He lives for start, sits, and trade scenarios. So go hit him up on Twitter at the FF Nerd, and you're going to get an answer. And that, I like Dylan personally because I think Dylan's going to take the job, frankly. I think he's going to be the lead back eventually. Do you guys have a leaning either way on this?
I mean, I think it's a no-brainer, but if the guy's willing to give you Woods, which I don't think Woods is necessarily, I love Robert Woods, but I don't think he's necessarily going to be that great this year in fantasy. So if you can get somebody else, see what the guy's willing to give you, because make a counter at least.
Yeah,
Jones was awesome last week, though, so it's hard to pass that up as he was
fantastic
last week.
That's true.
The cream on top. I'm a pro Dylan going into drafts just because of the price, but when you're getting more on top, I don't see why you wouldn't do it if you need it.
And also, Soaring Eagle, go check out the Roster of the People show from last night that Neil and Jason did. They talked a little bit about the Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon dichotomy in that backfield. And you know what? Frankly, you can't go wrong with either of them right now because they don't have shit for receivers. So, I mean, what are you going to do? So, I think you really can't go wrong. And like Ben said, that little extra cream on top with Robert Woods. Everybody loves Bobby Forrest. I'm not in love with the Tennessee offense as we just spent, a good 10 minutes skewering them. But, hey, if you're going to get a little extra, it might be worth it. You never know. But like I said, go get even better analysis from our fantasy football guys over at the Discord. You're going to love it in there. And on to the next game. We only have a handful left here, but we're getting into some good ones. Not necessarily this one, but here in a minute. The next one we have is going to be Baltimore at New England. Personally, I took this game and I like Baltimore -2.5. Now, it looks like it's actually started to move up. Baltimore is -3. Makes sense. If you can get it at 2.5, I would get it because the field goal, that magic number, you'd rather just be under it. What I see when I see Baltimore is really just a team that fell asleep. They fell asleep on Miami. They thought they had the game locked up, but for 3 quarters, they were easily the better team. They controlled the ball. They controlled defensively. They turned the ball over twice. Even when we said that their secondary was garbage and they have nothing there, new additions popped up. Who was it? I think it was who had that pick on the sideline? I think it was Marcus Williams. I don't remember.
I think 2 last week, yeah.
He had both of them, right? Okay, that's what I thought. Those plays are rangy plays that not many people can make. And when you put that in there, maybe they can get off with having some hurt corners or some tough cornerback play that has hurt them. It came back to bite them late, but not everybody has Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I think that this matchup is tailor-made for Baltimore to run the ball, control it, get a deep touchdown, and, just suffocate New England, because what is New England going to do? Frankly, in my opinion, they have the most vanilla offense in the league. The play calling is terrible. They don't have much talent. They've lost the talent on their defense. I don't know what's to be scared of this New England team. This New England team screams to me under 500, and I'm not afraid of that. What do you guys see anything when you see this game?
I would have jumped on this, but I'm still a little scarred from last week, so I need a week or two before I can jump back on the Ravens. But other than that, I have to agree with you. I mean, the 2 New England touchdowns from last week were as fluky as you can get. A ridiculous deep catch by Nelson Aguilar that should have been a pick, goes for a touchdown for New England. And then they had to get a muff punt late in the game to set them up within a 10-yard line of Pittsburgh for them to score their second touchdown. That's the only way they're scoring points. If you're not getting that, then New England's not doing anything offensively. So there should be a blowout in every sense of the word. There shouldn't be any reason for Baltimore to let New England keep this one close. But man, that secondary just brutal last week. I haven't seen anything as bad as that in a long time from Baltimore secondary. That's the only reason I'm going to stay away this week.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't pretty. I think that the 2 crazy picks are kind of their only real saving grace because it was ugly. It was really ugly. But, I think another part of this is my bias that I feel like, okay, full disclosure, New England beating Pittsburgh was my only miss of the week, or at least in my crazy lotto ticket parlay, dollar parlay or whatever. So I lost like 250 grand off of New England not covering, or after New England covering. So I'm livid and I'm mad because they're not a good team and that one should not have been a loss. So I'm hoping to make up for it here. And even though I'm taking this one straight this week, it's going to feel a lot better when this one cashes by an easy 10. So that's where I am at. Full disclosure, this is a pick filled with spite. So there we go.
I think Kyle Duggar being possibly out is going to be huge for this game because he's brought one of the most important players on New England's defense. I think this, just watching the tape, this one shouldn't be close. But if you think about Belichick, he does pretty good in these spots, forcing people to do what they don't want to do. So it's too tough. I'm definitely laying off. And my condolences on that parlay. My God.
Yeah, I was a heartbreaker. And that wasn't the only one because, I took a 3-teamer. I was really confident in Pittsburgh because, we saw how they looked in week 1. I thought they could play better. I thought they were really well coached. And it's just, all the reasons we went over last week and they just fell through. I was, in hindsight, you're like, you win some, you lose some. But my heart of hearts says, damn, that's one that we really needed right there. We would have been eaten, boys. We would have had new graphics, new logos everywhere.
I think, that's just so sad. So sad. And we were all on it too. We all had in one way or another wrote up something on Pittsburgh.
On something on it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And I think Baltimore's going to be fine on the back end. That's who Marcus Peters is. And if they just would have gotten out of their ways and played a little bit more shell coverage, they wouldn't have been giving up those busts like they were.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
On to the next matchup we have here. We have the Rams at Arizona, and this is going to be a good divisional battle. We've talked a little about it already, and let's see. Who do I have it right here? Oh, okay, there it goes. Now it's loading. It wasn't going to load up first. So it looks like V and Ben both took this one. You guys both like the Rams at -3 in the hook. Ben, what are you seeing when you see this team that makes you confident that they're going to cover this on the road here?
It's more an indictment of Arizona as a whole. I actually don't think the Rams look that good. I really don't. And like you guys alluded to, Stafford hasn't been great. I haven't looked at a spray chart of Stafford, but it would be interesting to look at. I feel like the elbow is affecting him, but I don't feel like teams have caught on to it enough. I think if you force him to throw 20 yards and under, that's how you can beat the Rams, and not every defense is capable of doing that. I think you saw a lot of it maybe in the first half, week 1 against the Bills, and as that game went on. But yeah, I think, and you might see the elbow get worse as the year goes on, and I think once people start realizing he's not throwing deep, but the Cardinals are worse, and the defense is still better, and the offense is still better, and it's not like they have an answer for Cooper Kupp. It's not like these corners are good. Their safeties are fine, but I mean, it's going to be a tough go of it for them, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, and like, did they win? Did Arizona do anything because of their defense last week? I mean, they won the game off of a defensive turnover for a touchdown, but I would argue that those are more fluky than they are indicative of a team's performance defensively, because they were shit for all of the game, for most of the game. The only reason they came back is because Kyler Murray had an amazing fourth quarter with 16 points, two-point conversions. Now, I don't see that happening every week, but like we talked about when we talked about the over under for our NFL versus piece, definitely go check that out. If you haven't already, you can find it on the website. Like you kind of touched on, the Rams are right there as, underachieving on what we think that they could be. And I'm right there with you. I don't think the elbow's good. We've talked about it before on this show that the elbow scares me a lot, because they're talking about it like, oh, it's the same injury pitchers have, and they're trying to use that as like closure, as opposed to like red flags and alarms going off, because Tommy John surgery is serious. If they have to change this tendon or whatever, he's not good for not only this season, he's not good for next season. Like, that could effectively spell the end of his prime or his ability to play football at a high level. And if teams start catching on to the fact that he doesn't have the velocity, or he's not attacking deep because he's feeling his elbow, it could eventually get bad. But I don't think it's bad right now. And just like you alluded to, you don't have anybody to cover anybody over in Arizona, so we'll see what goes.
And to get back to your guys' verses, I mean, in the last 5 games, the line of 49.5 is 3-2, but LA's only been under 30 in one of those games. So LA is going to get theirs for sure. It's just a matter of whether or not you think the Cardinals can in terms of the over-under.
And that's a huge if, too, because they have King Grifter over there. I should stop downing Cliff Kingsbury. He might send me a cease and desist because I keep body slamming him every show. But yeah, it just goes without saying that you can't really trust them a lot. And I think that points to what you were trying to say, right, V, when you wrote it up this week?
Yeah, you just can't trust them at all. It's just very, very weird that they haven't been able to figure it out. This is what, year 3 of the Kingsbury-Murray relationship, and they're just not doing anything. Just very weird. And I agree with Ben. This is more of a bet against Arizona than it is a bet for the Rams. Cardinals have the worst pass defense in the league. A lot of that is from week 1. They got torched by Mahomes. But there should be enough for Stafford, even if he's not 100%. There should just be plenty of opportunities. I like the fact that they finally got Allen Robinson involved last week. He should have plenty of opportunities in this one. There's just too many offensive pieces, even if Stafford isn't 100%, that I don't think Arizona's going to be able to stop them.
Couldn't have said it better myself. As always, V has the perfect analysis, even on a pick he didn't, go through on. It's okay. I'm hoping that I win this week, though. Frankly, it's always when we thought about this, I was like, do you really want V to wipe the floor with you for 16 weeks? So now I'm coming for you, V. I've got your number.
We're going to make it happen. I got this one.
We're going to make it happen. So on to our next game, and we have a good matchup, I guess. It would be good if it wasn't so injury-stricken and missing all the cool players in it. But we have Green Bay at Tampa. And V, you like the under 42 here. I mean, it kind of goes without saying.
Self-explanatory, right?
Yeah, the injury report. But is there anything else you're seeing on this that screams the under here? Because this 42 is technically a low number. And in a nutshell, if I woke up from a coma and was like, the Packers are playing the Bucks and the under's 42, I'm probably waking up and going, over, give me the over. I need all of it on the over. But this one seems like a pretty easy under. Are you seeing something else that's flagging to you?
Well, primarily it's definitely the injuries. We already know what's going on with Tampa Bay. They're just all torn up on the offense. Everybody's gone besides Brady and Fournette pretty much. But Green Bay also has a couple injuries today. No Randall Cobb, no Sammy Watkins. They're just not going to be able to throw the ball at all. The one thing Tampa Bay does have going for them this season is they probably have the best secondary in football right now through 2 weeks. They completely shut down the Cowboys and the Saints for the first 2 weeks of the season. They're just not letting anything through. So this is going to be a lot of running. I think Mike Manning told us last night he took the higher than 16.5 rushing attempts for Leonard Fournette. I think we're going to see a lot of running the football from both teams. When you run the ball, you run the clock. There's just not going to be that much time for these guys to put up points. This should be a pretty safe under.
Yeah, it makes sense. Literally, running the ball is only good for running the clock. That is the only thing it is good for. I don't know what old head football head needs to hear that, but I'm glad I got a chance to tell you. Ben, are you seeing anything when you see these once vaunted offenses now reduced to a mere 42 points on the total?
Yeah, like you said, you'd love to bet it if just at first glance, but with all the cool players, all the wide receivers, Green Bay has no wide receivers on the roster, and all
I think Lazard is hurt too.
Oh
actually.
no, Alan Lazard! What will we ever do? Sheesh, that was I think I said it on the podcast. That was the worst fantasy football pick. All of you people picking Lazard in round 8, 9, 10, whatever that was. Ha 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 ha. Have you watched the games? Because he can't separate from nobody. Sorry, I'm bitter as a Packers fan that has no wide receivers on his roster. Yeah, this game seems under. I'm not messing with it. It's going to be interesting for sure. I think I like the Fournette stuff a lot because I haven't watched game 2, but I'm pretty sure the Packers run fits are pretty bad right now. So he's definitely going to get some volume, and he might zoom over the other total bets as well. Yeah, I'm just laying off probably to save my soul, and I'll just enjoy this one as we hope to win. Actually, I'm really rooting for Green Bay, not only take it out the fandom, but I really want Green Bay to win. So hopefully the lines on Tampa goes down, because to me right now in the NFC, there are only 2 teams that have a shot, Philly and Tampa. And Tampa's going to get their wide receivers back. I'm not really worried about Julio. I don't think Julio can stay healthy for any long stretch of time, but getting Godwin and getting Evans back, that's huge. They'll be back to their old selves. And like you said, the defense looks great. Absolutely great. Yeah. So it's those 2 teams, and I just hope that the odds change a little bit. They haven't changed, even though Tampa hasn't looked great, but that's because the Oddmakers know they'll be back.
Yeah, and I think you put it a pretty great way. I think a lot of what this line and everything says is that Oddsmakers don't know what to make of either of these teams with all these injuries and what they're going to come out with, because when you have 2 Hall of Fame worthy quarterbacks that are going to be first ballot dudes and they just don't have anything around them, and it's, shooting them in the foot, essentially, it does become hard to really make a solid line. So it's going to be interesting to see how they move forward. And just like you said, I want to see how Oddsmakers adjust after this week, because this is going to be a big sign of what's to come, I think. And then on to the very last game of our slate. I tried really hard not to even talk about this. You know what? We don't have any more games. The show's over. Ben doesn't get to do his last pick. No, I'm just kidding. So we have the game I don't really want to talk about. The San Francisco 49ers favored in Denver against my Broncos. Ben likes them, as we've already gone over. He likes San Francisco to not only win, but to cover 1.5. Ben, go ahead. Cement your banning from this show with this analysis. Have at it.
Well, if winning a bunch of money gets me banned, then so be it. It gets me banned from a betting show. That would be ironic, but at least I'd have the money. But I think I got a question for you. Why aren't you looking at this the right way? I mean, take advantage. You can have some money that'll make you feel a little bit better about the Broncos losing. And I'm sorry, but it seems like they're going to lose. I think you should hop on the Niners train for a week. Just get on. While the Broncos look bad. I'm sorry to tell you, and I don't think they're bad. I think they have a decent roster. There's a lot of moving parts right now. I think the injury report doesn't do them any favors, and it would be interesting to see what this line would be if Trey Lance was out or in there. I'm sorry, if Trey Lance was playing, because I think Denver would be favored possibly. But getting Jimmy G back in there, they looked like they hadn't missed a beat. And I think that's better for the offense, at least in terms of this year. I think they might roll. I wouldn't even mess with 1.5. I'm going alternate spreads all across the board. Go check out the article that's coming out tomorrow. I mean, first half bets. I like double result bets a lot. Those are pretty juicy. I don't like this bet. I actually love this bet. And it's just because these teams are at opposite ends of the spectrum. Maybe the Broncos wake up, maybe, but they haven't faced a defense like this yet, and they've still been struggling. If they make the same mistakes against the Niners that they did against the Texans, a bottom 5 team in the league, they'll be down by 14 at halftime, if not more. And when you look at the first half range bets, the most probable outcome is down by 13 or more, according to Vegas.
Ben, I hate that you're right. I hate it.
You got to get on it. It's
no.
Probably the best line of the week. It really is.
I still refuse. My skin will burn if I try to hit enter on that bet. But no.
Just to spite you, I'm going to bet Tampa, and Tampa's going to win because Green Bay is not going to be able to do anything offensively, and Green Bay is not going to be able to stop Leonard Fournette. So then I'll be able to show you both tickets, and then I'll really be double banned.
You know what? If you do that, you're definitely never coming back on this show. I'll talk to Steve, and you won't write another damn word for IN. No, I'm just kidding. No, but you know what? It's not like the weirdest. Like on first sight, when this line first came out, it's moved a bunch. Every book had a different one. It's been crazy. Yeah. I saw some books have Broncos as favored by 3. It's -1.5.
That was the opening line before last Sunday. It was Broncos -3, but the line movement has definitely been crazy this week.
It's been fluctuation. Tons of fluxing, and I don't really blame it because what oddsmakers do is they look at it, they say, okay, hey, this roster, you got this roster, and when you look at it, if you match it, Denver's got a great roster, but it's a key distinction that we've been bringing on this show and that I've started to preach a little bit more throughout the year is that like your coaching is so important to the actual outcome of the game. Maybe not to like the development of your players or whatever jazz like the football, cliches want to give you. I think it comes down to who can operate the game better. And right now, the Broncos just aren't doing it. Hackett's falling short. Now, I'm not the type that's like take a guy's job after, 2 games, but there are things that he fell short on that are very basic football knowledge, things that, guys in Madden ranked games get right. So I don't know. I'm not confident in the team, but they'll have to bury me alive before I bet against the Broncos. I mean, I'm not going to bet for them, but I'm definitely not going to bet against them. But it's going to be an interesting week. V is going to talk nice about my Broncos. No, I'm just kidding. What do you see, though, V? Do you see anything when you see this one?
I don't have much analysis. I just have one question for you, Mason. Would you rather bet on Nathaniel Hackett to win Coach of the Year or to be first coach fired? Where do you think the value lies in those 2 options right now? Give it to us.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, it's a disaster, right?
It's a disaster. It's such a disaster. I hate to be like this, but first coach fired has to be the value. Why? Because you have new ownership. You have new ownership that didn't really pick the coach. Now, like, if he's like, hey, this is gross, I don't want to watch this every weekend, go get a new coach, they might have to do something about that. The Broncos haven't been typical. They don't really fire a coach after 1 year. For like 3 or 4 years before they went through a bunch of coaches in a row, this city used to be like, yeah, only X number of coaches, we're the best. And I'd be like, how does that make any sense? Like, it doesn't. But that just does show that they're not usually like this. But there is not a snowball's chance in hell that he wins Coach of the Year. I will never come back on this show ever. I'll never place another bet in my life if Nathaniel Hackett wins Coach of the Year. And that's coming from a diehard Broncos fan since I was a youngin'. So, sorry, Denver. I love you, but you ain't getting my money, Vegas. That's not happening. So,
well, Denver has to win this one. If they lose this game, their playoff chances are pretty much gone. You can't go 1-2 in this division and in this conference and hope to make the playoffs. So this is a big game. You can't just no other way to look at it.
this division, like, we haven't even gotten into the division yet.
Next week, baby. Next week.
We're gonna do division, the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't even handle Seattle, and we saw what Seattle was last week. We saw what the real Seattle was. And if we were ranking coaching, and I think it's the coaching. It really sucks, and the new quarterback, new situation. But if we were ranking coaching jobs last week, number 32 is Hackett. That was really bad. And how much better can it get over the course of a week's worth of practices? I don't know. I don't see him. I mean, for all of Kyle Shanahan's goodness, he messes up some game flow type things, but he's not going to mess it up like Hackett's going to mess it up. So I just don't see it. I don't even see an opening for them unless Russell Wilson wakes up or something.
See, and that's the thing. The roster on paper is still great. They can figure it out. Like, they can figure it out. It's not all lost. I'm not saying burn your Broncos futures or anything like that, but it's gonna be a tighter race. They have chemistry to develop, and like we've just touched on, there are some things you just gotta know before you are the HC on the sideline. And one of them is things like not holding onto your damn timeouts. So I don't think that those things can just be taught on the fly. I think those come from hours of grinding on Madden. So maybe Hackett, if you want to hit me up at
I feel like Mason, this is your job application to become a new head coach. That's what this sounds like.
If you want to learn how to coach Nathaniel Hackett, come out. I'll play you in Madden. I'll teach you how to use those timeouts, and we'll figure it out from there. But that about does it for us, boys. We wrapped it up. That's week 3 with a nice little bow wrapped up on it. Let's see what else. Oh, definitely make sure you check out everything over on Important Nonsense. Like Ben said, he's got another piece dropping this week. We have all sorts of great stuff. Check out me and Vishaal doing NFL Versus. Also check out our show live at halftime of TNF over Underdogs, where we pick player props from Underdog Fantasies. Pick them. It's a lot of fun. We're doing good with that. And join the Discord. Lots of fun. Lots of picks there. You can yell at us, do all sorts of things. And that about does it. Any parting words for the gents, V?
Yeah, I mean, can't believe we're already at week 3. Season's flying by. Should be a fun week. Not much else.
It should be a good time. I'm excited for it. I think I smell a lot of money this week. Ben, any parting words for the people at home?
Yeah, great to be here. It's been fun, guys. I'm more confident this week in my bets than ever than the weeks prior, and I hope you got those Jags and those Eagles futures before. Well, get them now, but I hope you got them before as well. Check me out on Twitter at BenHadBen. Ben, my name, had the word, Ben the word. And yeah, new article tomorrow. All sorts of exotics and some buying of some futures as well.
I like how your description of it is Ben the word, had the word, Ben the word. Like,
people probably are like, what the hell? And then they see it, and then you get it.
It makes sense. It all makes perfect sense. It's actually a clever handle. I love it. But
it's from Pickup Basketball.
Yeah, that does it for us. And until next time, we'll catch you later. Keep up the nonsense.